I'm Jen West, professional rebel of delight.
And I'm Dave Wiesdock, sage of creative scaffolding.
And this is shadow casting. All right, Dave, we are well into the new year. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I have been on top of my stuff for the past few weeks. I am growing into a whole new space, and I am ready to see where shadow casting casts 2025.
Oh my gosh, you are doing way better than me. I'm noticing all the places that I haven't quite stepped up and all the places that I need to make a little bit more adjustment. And yeah, it's been quite a start of a year for me. And with that, I started to think about New Year's resolutions. And around this time is that time when people stop doing the thing, whatever it was they resolved to do. I think by mid-February is the time that people stop going to the gym, give up on their food plan. And I was just curious for our audience, the thought that popped in my mind, if you quit what you're doing, do you really want it? Like the thing you planned on, do you want what you want?
Yeah. Do you really want what you think you want, or do you not want what you think you want?
Do you really want it?
Oh, do you really want it? So that reminds me, when you brought this up to me a few days ago, and I was listening to a acoustic rock playlist on Spotify, and one of the songs is "Do You Really Want It" by Nothing More. Some of the lyrics jumped out at me, and it goes, "Everybody wants to change the world, but one thing's clear, no one ever wants to change themselves."
Spot on. That's exactly exactly what I was thinking about. Because we do want to change ourselves. That's the whole flow of this, but it's really hard.
Yes. And I think in a way that's the message of the song, because there's parentheticals of backup vocals that say like something along the lines of, we can make that change if we want it, like if we really want it. And I think people do want to change, which is why this lyric kind of poked me. And in true rock form, I almost feel that was the intent. It was a little bit to poke you and go, okay, do you really want that change? You say you do, but do you really want it? And this is the first year for me where changes that I have said that I want, I'm actually making. And it's because we've been doing some more of that inner kind of mucky work a little bit.
I love mucky work. That's awesome. Yeah. And yeah, so jumping into this, it makes me think there are different facets. And the first question I want to ask is, do you really want what you think you want? Or stated another way, is it your want?
Oh, brilliant.
And as I run through that, when I say, is it your want? Sometimes we have to reflect back, think, is this something somebody else wants me to do or thinks I would be good at or sees in me that they think I should do, whether it be getting in shape or eating differently, or they see some potential in you that's a gift that you have, but you don't really want to expand on that particular skill you have. It's not interesting, but you're trying to make it a want because somebody else wants you to want it.
That is a fascinating perspective. And just for fun, I have a complete antithesis of that example.
Okay, shoot.
Here's my fun story. My want, my true want, was actually poked in me by someone outside of myself. And because I was holding on to wants that weren't mine, I wasn't ready to accept kind of where that want was coming from within. And so I feel there's a balance here of reflection and a little introspection, self-awareness that needs to happen, because the more work I've done with this, the more I realize that things that light me up for a reason. They're speaking to me at a certain spot. And we sometimes can get in our own ways, like in our own way. And so then the change doesn't really happen the way we envisioned in our head. You know, the week before New Year's, there's a lot of momentum and excitement and enthusiasm, a new year, new opportunities, new me. And then the life happens, life comes back. We're out of the holiday season, we're back into the swing of work. And so the changes don't happen as simply as we imagined. And I think that's worth exploring. Why don't the changes happen the way we imagined?
Yeah, so let's explore some of these things. First, the idea of, is it yours? Is it something you actually want for yourself? And if it is yours, what might still be blocking you that you don't take action on it?
Our podcast is about shadow casting, and there's a very poignant theme here of shadows. And so looking under the hood, taking a peek at our own shadows, the shadows we cast affect the changes we try to make. And so you're absolutely right. I think the first important question is this yours? And I'd stop the question there. You asked, is this your want? I'd just say, is it yours? Beyond just wants. Anything that you're holding on to, your beliefs, your patterns, your habits. There's things I picked up from my parents that I'm still like, why do I do that?
I don't even like that thing.
But there's components that come up with why we can't make those changes, such as self-doubt, discomfort with change, fear of being vulnerable, resisting that kind of inner small voice in our heads. This is the fun one for me. The small voice has been very helpful in my own journey because we hear the small voice all the time, that conscience, that Jiminy Cricket on our shoulder that we sometimes analogize it with. And a lot of times we've learned to tune it out. Like we hear it and then we go, okay, but that doesn't fit where I'm at or the paradigm or belief or structure that I'm trying to operate within. And so you kind of push it to the side. And the problem is, coming from like a chiropractic point of view, for example, the more we push things to the side, the stronger that voice tries to become and comes out through other ways. And so when we resist that quiet voice, it begins to build almost habits against the one that we truly desire.
Yeah, and it tries to get us focused and reoriented on what we want, but we don't recognize it as such. I see where you're going with this thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of what I am discussing is so unconscious. It's probably hard to wrap the mind around because this is something that I even just am starting to understand. And so where I think the benefit is for our audience listening, not to act on the voice, but just to practice the art of listening to it, to hear it, to catch it, to notice it, and to notice that you caught it, and to create space with that. I think that's how you move into opening up the opportunity to make those small kind of changes.
And this voice has the same sound as our critic. It's just going in the other way. It's going in the growth and want and joy and happiness. And so that's an easier one to tune out when we've got the other voice saying, you're not doing this right and you need to be doing this and this should be happening. Shoulds are sometimes the reason we don't get to our wants.
Here's the fun thing, too. I have found that the small voice is often embarrassing to me. I have an embarrassment around the small voice. Yeah, isn't that weird? Because my small voice wants to, I don't know that it's my inner child per se, but it has inner child qualities. When I was first married and I had my two stepdaughters, they were a little older, in 8, 9, 10. And so they liked to play on the playground. And there was this part of me that was in my older 20s. And so I had all these beliefs and systems. You don't play on the playground. You don't goof off. No more monkeying around. That's not who you be as an adult. And I said, screw that. Why? What are people going to do? Judge me because I'm playing on the monkey bars with my kids? But it's that kind of mentality. And by listening to that voice, it engaged more with my family. It kept me physically active. It got me more engaged with ways to play in ways that I wasn't used to before. And so that opens things up. And that's a hint into how you can know if you're following the small voice that's the critic or the small voice that's opening things up from within you that are filled with growth and potential? Is it creating a ripple effect in other areas of your life? Or is it causing you to almost self criticize to the point where you're just beating yourself up for not hitting a certain goal? Because one creates opportunity and the other just kind of continues the cycle of self limitation.
An example from my own life, I now do internal martial arts, and there's a lot of standing or almost Tai Chi like movement. And when I'm with my group, I do it. I don't have any reservations. When I'm standing alone, not only do I get self doubt, but I get this discomfort from how are other people going to judge me or see me. I'm not good at it yet, so it's not beautiful to watch. Kind of clunky, and my arms are disconnected, and they don't do exactly what they're supposed to do. And so it's not pretty either. It's still broken and new. And so all of these doubts come in on the thing that I really want to practice and get good at and get better at, and that I know takes time and effort. And that feeling dumb sometimes slows me down in it. Creating a new process. Dave mentioned discomfort to change. I have to change the way I move. I have to get into those movements that I'm not good at instead of my normal martial arts with kicks and punches and stuff. And that blocks us because our freedom to just express gets kind of bogged down by, will look dumb, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this in a park.
Now, you bring up a great point around this in that we are talking about one change, right? We are mentioning one change. And a lot of times when people, even myself, when I get ambitious about resolutions, there's a laundry list of changes I'm going to make. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating healthy. I'm going to sleep more. I'm going to spend more time with my husband, my kids, etc. I'm going to do better at work. I'm going to get a better paying job. I'm going to make more money. I'm just rattling this off. And that's a bunch of changes. And we're just saying how hard it is to make one change. And this is why we talk about priority. It's a keystone habit, a keystone behavior that
It's like a focus. It's one thing to focus on that rattles out into everything.
Yes, exactly. I think that's why change is hard and why it's not simple. All these things come up with just one change. Again, afraid to be open, afraid to be consistent behavior is not rewarded in our society. It's touted as the superheroes, not the average person. And so I really like shadow casting because we take something that seems impossible to the average person based on how it's portrayed in society. And we say, you can do it too. Here's the steps to kind of get there. And it opens up and unlocks the space to make the change in your life. The people that we see on these videos, the one that you shared with me the other day on Instagram, that elderly lady that was doing these upper body rope challenges and stuff, she didn't just wake up one day and say, I am doing this. That was a consistent behavior that she did over time, that she built on. And that's where I think there's a disconnect. There's a gap. We miss the gap. We see A and we see B, and we think if we just make B our goal, we will just get there.
Yeah. And what Dave's talking about here was a video of, I don't know if you know the Ninja Warrior television show. One of the female athletes is Jessie Graff. Well, her mother started working out with her. And at 73, she is the oldest female Ninja Warrior. And she can do amazing pull-ups, and she can climb ropes, and she's stronger than I am. And she's 73. She's amazing. And so I posted a video where she's like, 65 plus, you can be amazing. Yeah. And Dave brings up a great point. Yes, she can do all that stuff, but she started when she was 63 and couldn't do one pull-up. And it was the slow, kind of grueling, consistent work over time. But now at 73, she's amazing. And that's what we see. We see the amazing and think it was easy, or they always had it. And it's not that.
No. I really liked that video because it showed me her treasure, right? Her gift, her value is, well, actually, I don't know what her value is, but you can see it being lived through her actions, through how she is behaving. That's where the sell is. That's why it's so appealing on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, because we see everyone else's treasure and we want it too. And I don't know that it's a problem. The disconnect is then we think that because we see someone else with their treasure, we want that specific treasure. And that's not necessarily it. It's that it lights up within us that there's a treasure that we haven't found yet or that we're searching for. And so we see the allure of these treasures like personal growth, self awareness, empathy, compassion, understanding, positive regard. These are qualities that come from these treasures because as you go through the journey, you build up a resilience, grit, and connection to something outside of yourself, but also within that builds your world.
It also gives confidence. And that's what we see in the people who have gotten to that superhero, I'm using air quotes, that superhero place, that they do something that's beautiful or athletic or just amazing, or they've achieved something that we've always wanted to achieve. They've lost weight, they've built a relationship, whatever it is, whatever that New Year's resolution was, they now have the confidence because they've done it. And that confidence is what we want. And we want the confidence first before we take the journey. And we want the goal finished before we learn consistency.
Yes. When we're trying to focus on consistent behaviors, one of the exercises that we practice is self awareness and building as I talked about earlier, kind of a space or opportunity to listen to that quiet inner voice that we've been talking about. That's that self awareness. And what happens is as you begin to build that self awareness, you hold space for the voice. You start to listen more to the voice. You get curious with the voice. And then you go, what if I just tried this one little change? Just this one little thing. For me, and I think we've actually talked about this on past podcasts, my change was doing a little Tai Chi. And it took months for me to make this small change. Months. And what ended up happening is I had to keep hearing in the little voice saying from Jen, oh, it only takes 2 minutes. Dave, it's only 2 minutes. It's a small change. I was making it much bigger than it needed to be. I was trying to find the alignment of the stars with the sun and the moon and waking up at 8 a.m. and the sun has to be shining through the window just right so I can feel all woo way. And it was all just fluff. It wasn't doing the work. And that's where the self-awareness helps. When you begin to align with who you really are, you stop looking for the ways to make the work beautiful and you just start doing the work. It stops becoming about the aesthetic and it starts becoming about the cultivation within.
And it has to start small because it's tough to change. It's really, really tough. And we get into a rhythm with our family, with our life, with our work. I know for me, the thing that stops me from acting on my want is there's only so much time. And although I want to sit and meditate for 45 minutes, I have to make breakfast and I have to get this other thing done. And my house is cluttered and that's urgent right now. Instead of saying, I'm going to sit for 45 minutes and everything else is going to be easier after. But that thought that says no. And here's the worst thing. I'm blocked because I desperately want to do it and don't want to do the other things. So what do I do instead? Scroll and procrastinate and watch other people do move. And so I'm not doing the thing I want to do. And I'm not doing the other thing that I should be doing. I'm scrolling and procrastinating everything because I'm not honoring myself. And if I would have honored myself first, I would have been able to move right into the other work after. It would have flown together instead of wasting 2 hours scrolling.
I just holding space for that. That's so positively awesome.
They go together. When you're not doing what you want and you're trying to force yourself to do something else, that's when that procrastination of not doing either happens. And it sucks.
Yeah, it's procrastination is one of those little clues along the way on your treasure hunt. I remember I was dating somebody and I made this treasure hunt where every clue they found took them to a different location, but within each clue, there was a certain like number with it. And whatever the answer was, because they were all one word answers, whatever letter, like whatever number was given, like a 3, that would mean the third letter of whatever the answer was spelled out a different word. I made it really complex. It was a lot of fun. And what ended up happening is it all built towards the bigger answer, which was we were going on like a week vacation or something. And so it was a lot of fun and it got to the treasure, but it was the journey and it was the energy of these like little changes, these little answers and words and putting together little clues over time that built to the goal. And so what was fun for that is that it was just as fun for the journey as it was for getting to the destination. The destination was just as fun. And in fact, I would still argue that actually doing the treasure hunt was even more fun when we got there because it was about the memory and it was about relationship. And that's what I think is missing, or that's one of the other gifts and treasures is the relationships you build as you go through this process. If you are truly cultivating the want from within, it is creative. It builds. It is a creative force. It helps build empathy within yourself, with others. There's a level of connection. It's just what keeps coming to mind for me. And so I feel that that is an important part of this. Your wants are generative. And if your want is a should, it's usually going to feel constricting, tight. And so we procrastinate because we don't want to do the tight things. And the reason I bring this up is from a work point of view. I was dealing with an employee who didn't want to do a certain task because it was very monotonous and very humdrum. And they are very creative people. And they want to do the big wow factor. And so what happens is that they were procrastinating on the not fun stuff to try and focus on the fun stuff because that's what lit them up. They were following the dopamine, the hit. And that's the most challenging part of this work is sometimes we've got to go through the muck because the dopamine hit that we get, because the effect that we have, the cascading effect that we have from actually going through the muck and finding the treasure is more powerful, more potent, and more life sustaining. No.
Affirming?
Life affirming? I don't know.
More life.
Yeah, more life. Exactly. More life. It's more life. It's just, there's a joy there. There's that inner joy, I think, is that hint. There's other ways too. There's other clues that can kind of cue you in if you're hunting your want. Another one is dismissing feedback. And this comes on the tail of that same scenario. The employee that I'm talking about, when we would share the feedback with them, was very dismissive, saying no, that this task was monotonous and mind numbing. And they just had all these reasonings for why they didn't want to do the task. And what we ended up finding out is that they had a want that they weren't expressing even to themselves. And that by expressing it and doing what they actually wanted to do, it opened them up to being able to do the things that they were rebelling against because they were motivated and energized by what they were leaning into in themselves.
Exactly. And that pretty much ties the point I was trying to make. If you do the thing that lights you up on the inside, you want to do the other things. It seems weird, but once you've done the thing that needs to be done, you want to clean your house because you're happy. And cleaning your house makes you more happy because it's organized, or you want to go do that thing for a neighbor. Once you put yourself in that more joyous state, you want to share it.
Yes, yes, that is an excellent point. When you are following a want, it is a internal motivating factor. If it is a should, it is external. I should clean my house because people are coming over. That is not generative. That's not connecting. That's not fun. I'm going to clean my house because it makes me joyful and happy. And I want to share a home and a space that other people can feel safe and open in. And I create that by cleaning my house. That is generative. That's connecting. That's empathetic. That's leaning into the want.
Right. And so for our audience, this is where I kind of want to take everybody at this moment. If you made a New Year's resolution and it's starting to wane, or you're starting to think maybe whatever, I'm going to drop it, play with this hunt. Start breathing into it. First, did you really want it? Is it yours? And if it is, let's start hunting. Let's start going through those steps and finding out how to make it real and make it consistent and make it that path to that superhero that you're looking for, the reason you chose it in the first place.
And if it's not yours, if it is a should, hold space for that. Write it down, journal about it. Maybe your want is buried in it, but maybe it's not your want as you're looking at it. So that would be a fun thing to play with. And one of the things that as shadow casting and as hosts, we can play with our audience. So if there's a want and a New Year's resolution that has been waning, as Jen said, and you're looking for kind of that oomph, if you're looking for that oomph, that opportunity to really dig into that want, let us know, because we offer opportunities to help others figure that out.
Yeah, and group support, which kind of takes us into our treasure map and how to get back into that high of when we first set the goal.
Yes. Let's dig into how do we hunt? We've already hit on one, start small. If your goal is to be healthier this year, pick one, pick the ripple effect. Working with a couple clients that I've been now having the opportunity to work with, a lot of them deal with sleep issues, and sleep is huge to the health benefits and the ripple effect. If you are operating on low sleep, your brain doesn't function as well, your body doesn't function as well, you're more tired during the day, your performance decreases. Sleep is a really good one to hone in or play with a small change because it's easy. You don't have to do anything. You just have to show up at a bedtime.
Yeah. And you could create a little ritual around it if sleep is hard for you. Create that. Do that one thing, and your entire life will change if you start getting good sleep.
Yeah. Make it fun. Don't make it, I got to go to bed because I'm old and I need my 8 hours of sleep. No, make it fun. I made I called it the Uncle Ira ritual. People that listen to our podcast know we love our fandoms. And I'd make tea and I have like a little sleep mask and stuff. I made it a way of nurturing myself so that I look forward to doing it. And because I'm looking forward to doing it, I find ways to make it work. And that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. So then a next thing after you've figured out a small step is to seek support. Find your community, find people who are on your team who, since we're going with sleep right now, people who will set you up for success and cheer you on. If you said, I slept for 4 hours last night, and they're like, yay, that's more than last night. Or I actually got a full 8 hours sleep. Somebody who's like, will honor that and cheer you on, or who is working on the same thing as you are.
Yeah. In a similar way, support within, practicing self-compassion. I know I am super hard on myself, just like my fellows, perfectionists and type 1 people. And we have to remember that gentleness, grace, I always say to myself, grace and space, grace and space. That is my mantra, grace and space. Something doesn't go the way I wanted, grace and space. It makes me chuckle, and that's why it works. It's funny. The words are helpful, but it's because it gets me out of my head. It kind of moves my mindset. It forces me out of the loop I'm in. It's a trigger. And so it helps get me out of that rigidity and that structure that I'm like trying to force. And it gives me some gray area to play in. And what is funny to me, even though I have witnessed it myself and experienced it time and time and time again, is that because I am built to have structure, I go back to that. And so when I give myself space when the structure doesn't work and I go, okay, I only had my shake twice this week instead of all 7 days, instead of beating myself up for the 5, I honor the 2 that I did get it right. And that motivates me.
Yeah. The self-compassion is listening more to that little quiet voice of the want than listening to the critic. And it's a practice.
It is a practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my favorite little treasure map tool is Unleash Delight. Find those little tiny joys and awes and moments that excite you, that make you want to hunt more. One of the things I do when I go out on walks, I live in an area that must have a lot of artists or something, because they will paint rocks and hide them around the trail that I walk on. And so I hunt for awareness treasures, is what I call them. And that means I'm out and I'm in nature and I'm actually there. And then I catch sight of these little painted rocks around and I take pictures of them and stuff. So that's a delight that gets me out on the trail to physically walk. I'm actually finding treasures.
That is uniquely you. I love it.
It is pretty me. And maybe you're one of the people that makes the treasures. If you're an artist, paint some rocks. It makes people's day. It makes my day. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes. Beautiful. I think one other tool that I have just to add to your unleashing delight is to embrace curiosity. Instead of seeing life as a test and trials, see it as the infinite game we talk about it being, as an opportunity that every time something comes your way, it is a chance to go within and discover more about yourself and align with more of who you are. Every opportunity we face is either an opportunity to win by aligning with who we are, or to learn by figuring out where we aren't aligned and making the small changes we've talked about throughout this podcast.
Sounds good. So hopefully these steps help you. I'll just reiterate them quickly. 1, here's your treasure map. Start small. Number 2, seek support. Number 3, practice that self-compassion. Don't leave that one out. Number 4, unleash your delight. And number 5, embrace your curiosity.
What a beautiful map.
It's pretty cool. I love it.
So, for our audience, do you really want it? If the answer is yes, remember that resistance isn't a dead end. It's just your first clue. It's just the way to start the process. Start small, follow the trail that Jen outlined, and see where it leads. Your treasure's waiting. You just have to decide to go after it.
So here's our challenge for you, audience, in this new year, working on your wants. This week, take a moment to identify that want. And have you been avoiding it? If you have, really get to know. Write down and get curious and take the small steps towards it. Even if the step is as simple as sitting with it and reflecting on why it matters. So really, the steps can be super small. So look for it, do a little treasure hunting for it, and take one action. And you'll be back on your way.
Yes. And if you pick up a whiff of delight along the way, that's definitely a hint.
Yeah, chase after that thing.
So thank you for taking the time to listen to us today, audience. We hope that you have found a way to uncover your own treasure. Make sure to like and listen and subscribe. Follow us wherever you're listening to. Make sure to give this podcast a comment. Let us know your thoughts.
And until next time,
see ya.